Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Now, imagine that you are Oprah Winfrey and you wanted a new car with red interior and a fuel-injected motor. And since you're not Oprah Winfrey, the mechanic, engineer, or upholsterer, you hire these people who are experts in their field to design your car, ladies and gentlemen. But imagine that you ignore the experts and tell them how the car should be built, ladies and gentlemen. Against their many warnings to you and saying, ma'am, this can't be done, you go ahead and decide to tell them how to build the car, and you end up with a death trap on wheels, ladies and gentlemen. Would you say that this is good enough? No. This leads me to the motion that this House believes that FutureCare is good enough, and we as Team Negative strongly disagree with this motion. Now, before I get on with my case, I would like to rebut some of what Team Proposition has said today. Now, first she spoke of how people in Phase 1, individuals in Phase 1 pay $375, and people in Phase 2 and 3 pay $635. And then she went on to say, well, we believe that this is good enough, and talk about how there's no discrimination. But wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen, why is it that people in Phase 1 only pay $375, while people in Phase 2 and 3 pay $635? Don't you see some discrimination there? Is this truly fair? Why don't we equal this out and everyone pays something like $475? And I'd also like to tackle a point of how she said that this in fact was affordable, to which we say this is certainly not the case, and not at this time. And I'd also like to tackle her opening, ladies and gentlemen. She said grandmother's brain aneurysm bill was about $250,000, and we say that, you know, this is certainly not a good thing, but if she's talking about how poor grandma is, can grandma really afford to pay 25% of $250,000, ladies and gentlemen? FutureCare only covers 75% of that bill that she was talking about with her poor grandmother. And ladies and gentlemen, we would ask Team Affirmative, if your grandmother is so poor, how is she going to pay 25% of $250,000? I don't think she will be able to, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I also have a problem with their definition, ladies and gentlemen. Good enough is expressed as contentment and satisfaction. Well, we would ask contentment and satisfaction for who? Seniors who we see there's great discrimination. There was such a bad genesis in FutureCare in its implementation that there's a lot of discrimination, as my second speaker will go on to talk about, and certainly not express contentment and satisfaction for doctors who it takes a month and a half just for them to be paid. Where's this contentment and satisfaction coming from? We would ask on Team Negative. Now, I would also like to address the point that she made on seniors making $36,000 a year, ladies and gentlemen, which would equal to about $9,500 a month. More like $950. That's more reasonable compared to the actual estimate, which is about $932. So we would ask for some more clarity on Team Affirmative, and we clearly see today that Team Affirmative is unprepared, have not done proper research, ladies and gentlemen, and therefore we are already winning this debate. Now, ladies and gentlemen, but I'd like to get on to my case right now. My first point is on fiscal sustainability. Insurance companies internationally have demonstrated that in order for an insurance company to run smoothly, you need a pool of about 250,000 people. There's that number again, 250,000 people. And I'd like to highlight that FutureCare only has 3,000 people. Now, of that 3,000, 100% of them are seniors. And what we know about seniors is that they cost 4 times more in claims than people under the age of 65, or juniors, if you will, as I like to call them. Now, some of you may ask, how can such a thing be sustainable? Ladies and gentlemen, the answer to that question is no, it is not sustainable.
Point of information.
But before I go on, wouldn't you agree, Glenn?
I certainly want to agree, being that the fact that on paper, yes, you may be right, but in actual fact, FutureCare has a purse of $6 million.
Thank you, Glenn, for your point. On paper, I'm right. He's already contested the fact that on paper, I'm right. The paper balance sheets show the amount of money, how much money they make in claims, how much money the government give them, the government subsidies. So therefore, we win that point right there. But let's talk about the government for a second. Now, the government ignored the experts within civil service who are experts in that field. And they warned them that a pool of seniors was a bad idea, who advised them to widen the pool, who told them that FutureCare should be a licensed insurer or it would just become another HIP. But the government didn't listen, and that is why FutureCare is not good enough. Perhaps better than HIP, which is not our argument, but not even close to the optimum insurance that we feel on Team Negative that Bermuda's seniors truly deserve. Now, the greatest asset to any insurance company is their people, is their workers. FutureCare as a company does not have the intellectual capital to be sustainable either. They have no actuary, no qualified accountant, no clinical case manager, and the list goes on and on. If they did in fact have these things, in theory, premiums would be lower and the turnaround time to pay doctors would be much faster, and they wouldn't even have an excuse to say this is what the reason that we're charging seniors up front. Now, on this point, ladies and gentlemen, the turnaround time for doctors. We already recognize that it takes about a month and a half to pay doctors. And we don't want doctors to have any excuse or reason why they should be able to charge seniors up front. That's not what we're standing for on Team Negative. But according to Team Affirmative, they said that the government has the best interests of the seniors in mind. Well, if this is in fact the case, then why don't they set a minimum price for the amount of money that a doctor can charge within a doctor's office? As it stands, there is no law that states how much should be charged. There is no real meter, ladies and gentlemen. So what have I showed you, ladies and gentlemen? I have shown you that FutureCare is in fact unsustainable. My second speaker will go on to talk about how FutureCare has had a bad genesis. He will go into greater detail on how FutureCare is discriminatory, how FutureCare doesn't necessarily meet the needs of seniors. And I have shown you today, ladies and gentlemen, that if Granny in fact has a brain aneurysm and it costs $250,000, if she is so poor, she won't be able to afford 25% of that large bill left to her by FutureCare. And for these reasons, ladies and gentlemen, we certainly say that FutureCare is not good enough, and I'm sure by the looks on your faces that you would agree. Thank you.